I am one of the representatives for Saúde, Criança at ERJ.
I'm Tali, and I'm the Vice President of Saúde, Criança here in ERJ. And I'm Juanita, I'm the President of the club here in school, Saúde, Criança.
Okay.
Wait, do you want me to?
Brazil is such a divided country and such an inequality, one of the worst in the world. In Rio de Janeiro, we have around like 10 million people. 1/3 of the population live in the miserable condition.
If something happens to these families that live below the poverty line, they have no slack. These families facing terrible choices, feeding a child versus buying medicine for another child.
I can solve things that are related to disease in the hospital. The guys outside the hospital, it's the real world. They leave the hospital and they can die anyway because they do not eat well, because they don't have enough money to get back to the hospital to continue the treatment.
I saw this vicious cycle, hospitalization, rehospitalization many times, and I knew we need to do something. At Renascer, we decided to change completely the environment where the children and the poor family live. And to change completely, we have to work in many areas, in a very integrated form.
It's not enough to have a heart and to try to get something done for the poor. It has to be done right. And what has kept me involved with Renascer is my belief that Renascer can do it. It can break a lot of vicious circles of health problems, poverty, and lack of education. And Renascer knows how to do it in a way that others can do it elsewhere. It's not a local thing, it is really a global approach.
It begins here in the hospital when we have the first interview with the mother. I or the psychologist can say, we have a family here who really needs Renascer.
When a mother comes to Renascer, they spend a time in a very deep interview when we try to know everything about how much she earned, what kind of house she has, and of course the disease of her child. We listen to them and we plan with the family an action plan that takes place during 2 years. They come many times during the month for psychological support, legal support, to have medicine, to make some professionalization courses, to improve the house. It's hard to understand their reality. It's so much suffering. They have to fight to live every day.
Eu tenho 2 meninas e o sonho do meu esposo era ter um filho homem. Na primeira oportunidade que veio, com 8 meses de vida, ele foi embora, entendeu? Eu queria morrer. Minha autoestima estava lá embaixo. Ao Renascer, me analisou através de psicóloga. E ao olhar as minhas filhas, elas estavam com situação de desnutrição. E elas tinham muito, assim, pneumonia de repetição. Vieram na minha casa, viram que minha casa era muito úmida. E através dessa umidade, ela estava ficando muito doente através da respiração, entendeu? Aí eles começaram a me ajudar. Colocaram um telhado sobre a minha casa, que era só a laje. E eles me ajudaram fazendo cursos.
She's so brilliant in her courses that she did at Renascer. So we built a salon in her house to help her to have her own income generation.
Mudou muito. Minha autoestima, tudo. Tem aquela sementinha, é uma lagarta. Através do renascer, nascendo, vão virar borboletas.
I've been the chairman of the pediatric department in Estado da Lagoa for 16 years. So I'm very lucky because I can see the difference between BR and AR. before renascer and after renascer. After renascer, 60% of child that usually was in the hospital, they are not in the hospital anymore. The pediatric department was always proud. It changed completely.
I think what makes Renascer sustainable is the sheer power of the concept and the impact, the demonstrated impact it has. The average wage as a family went up by almost 50%.
When you think about how to change the world, we think about big miracles, a lot of money, a lot of technology. We don't need that. We need small miracles every day and step by step. We can end poverty in this world with the technology that we have already, with the simple methodology that we need to transform the world. And with the willingness to do that, we can change the world.
Okay guys, so before we start our presentation, we would like to remind you guys of our essential question. Our essential question is how to improve the home environment and promote the self-sufficiency of Brazilian families with children suffering from chronic disease and extreme poverty. So what we want you guys to think about this question and relate back to it every time that we talk about Saúde Criança and its methodology. And right at the end of our presentation, we will ask you guys, and you will respond, and you will opinionate as to if Saúde Criança is actually succeeding in answering this question.
So who are you? First of all, like Saúde Criança, you've heard a lot of information right now. So Saúde Criança, well, we do here in school, we're a branch of the NGO. We help the communication with our community. So we're the ones helping develop this methodologies, not only in the hospital with the patients, but also here in school, like making small miracles, as Vera, the coordinator and founder of Saúde Criança, said. So what we're trying to do is help families that are very poor, very underprivileged, have no opportunities to be better, become someone in their lives. And through these opportunities we help with this methodology that Saúde Criança has, we plan not to help only the children that is sick, but also to help the family overall in a holistic approach.
So here in the Gen Conference, our goal is to spread awareness about our projects and to inspire other people into searching to do similar ideas and similar projects in their local communities and to implement similar things to the projects that we are doing here in our school.
So how do we work? So first, we started, 3 of us getting affiliated with the NGO. So we went there, signed a contract, and responsibilized that we were the ones that would take charge of the events we do in school and take charge of the people that were the volunteers that we would take to the hospital for the visits. So after we signed the contract, we mobilized the school. We found volunteers and people that were willing to go, willing to help, and eager to make a change in the world. So after we got the volunteers, we went to the hospital, went where we host our main events, their main campaigns, and where we have the hospital visits, which are our main projects nowadays. And after we go and have these events, have these ideas, we go to the social media. We go through Facebook, we go through Instagram. There are many different platforms and channels we use to mobilize people, to talk to we give speeches here in school, we have the club meetings, we have various ways to reach out to people so they can help us through donations, through supports, through various ways. And we hope in the end that we will get the donations we need for this specific event and the awareness raised by the campaigns.
Okay, so why is Saúde Criança important, right? So these graphs are from a study conducted by Georgetown University, and we will see how these statistics show how Saúde Criança has impacted the society. So the first one right there,
just so you keep in mind, this is before Saúde Criança was established in the hospitals. It is 3 to 5 years after it was established, how it changed the same families and same patients that were there.
Exactly. So the first graph shows the percentage of kids that were under the umbrella of Saúde Criança that were rehospitalized, and the percentage of these kids that were rehospitalized after they finally got under the project of Saúde Criança. So before Saúde Criança was implemented into their lives, only 61.4% of these kids were rehospitalized. So that means that 61.4% of these kids were going to the hospital and not getting successfully cured, so that the next time they would have to return to the hospital to get the same treatment, right? So that's not efficient. But after Saúde Criança was implemented into their lives, only 8.9% of these kids went back for rehospitalization. So what we see here is Saúde Criança improving the hospitalization process and showing us how these kids do not need to go back to the hospital to get cured. This graph right here shows the employment of the parents of these kids, right? So before these families got under the umbrella of Saúde Criança, only 54% of these parents were employed, right? So only 54% of these parents could provide to their children. They actually had a stable job. But after Saúde Criança was implemented into their lives, 3 to 5 years actually, 70% of these parents actually had a job. So we can see here a difference of around 16% in employment of these parents.
And we'll explain more about the methodologies and how they managed to do this afterwards.
This graph for me is the most interesting graph. This shows the percentage of kids that actually had an education before Saúde Criança and after Saúde Criança. So as we see here, before Saúde Criança, only around 10% of these kids had an education, while 92% of these kids had an education after they finally got impacted by Saúde Criança. So we can see here the huge difference that Saúde Criança makes in their lives and provides them the necessary education.
Well, you need to keep in mind that the patients of Saúde Criança are like more than just cancer patients. They're every type of disabilities and diseases. And many times the parents didn't even know there were schools that were prepared to help and support this type of diseases and type of disabilities. So Saúde Criança is just as a platform to like information and knowledge to the parents as well.
Okay, this graph right here is very interesting. This is their personal insight in their social welfare. So before Saúde Criança, 56% of these families said that they lived a bad or a very bad life. 34.4% said that they lived a regular life, and 9.6% of these families said that they lived a good to a very good life, right? But after Saúde Criança was implemented into their lives, only 15.2% of these parents said that they lived a bad life, right? Only 15. So we can see a decrease from 56 to 15. Around the same said that they lived a regular life, but the huge difference is shown in that 51.2% of these parents said that they now lived a good to a very good life. So more than half of these families are now living a very good or a good life. We have now a video. We're going to see the famous Muhammad Yunus talking about how social inclusion is important.
What means social inclusion? There's no reason why anybody in the planet should be rejected for one reason or another, by color, by culture, by religion, by whatever reason. Human community is one community. We have to work together, make it happen. There is nothing can separate us from each other. Thank you.
Okay, right there you saw Muhammad Yunus talking about why social inclusion is important in Saad hugging. That was actually the founder of Saúde Criança. So Muhammad Yunus, I know many of you guys already heard about him, and all of you guys are very active in your communities. He was this guy, and he developed this methodology to implement an integrated approach of what you call microcrediting. And Saúde Criança, in a way, is a branch of that. And so here we see Muhammad Yunus again emphasizing the fact that it's very important not only to provide hospitalization for these kids, but also to make a change in their families, to provide work for their parents, to provide them a good education. You know, it's not only the hospitalization itself, it's the whole process of it that's important.
So who do we help in this project? As you guys have seen in the video of the beginning, we're not only helping the kids, the patients who are the ones that are impacted directly by this project, but also the families, because of the way that the families get supported, and they need a lot of support during this very tough time that they're going through. They're staying like very long periods of time in the hospitals with their kids. They stay like I know families that have been in the hospital for months, like every day, and they can't leave because of the kids. They have to stay there. And so we go there, we support the families as well, and they get like help to get jobs and types of workshops. And directly the kids, but most importantly, it's how they help us. The way that we see ourselves and how we as volunteers get helped by the kids and how they impact us and how they change us.
Is at the hospital.
So this is Saúde, and this is the first time we met him. He has various complications due to infections from a previous disease that led to another disease. So this is just showing like hospital visits and how we interact with them. And this is
So this is another a volunteer from last year. She graduated already. And this is a picture from one of our projects. It was a fashion show that we'll explain later. And you see how close we get to these kids. That they're amazing and it's very nice to get to know them.
so the projects.
Okay, so we were now talking about more of a macro view of Saúde Criança, so the NGO itself as a whole, what the NGO does to implement these projects, but now we're going to talk about more specifically of what we do for Saúde Criança in our school, give you guys more of a micro level of what we do specifically for Saúde Criança in our school.
So the milk drive. So one of the problems that were listed in the video was that they don't have proper nutrition. They don't have the access to the food they need to recover when they're home. So what the Saúde Criança does is a lot of food drives of a non-perishable foods where the moms can take the food home and feed their children while they're in a small time of recovery before having to return to treatments. And the school, we decided to help with a fundraiser in the high school. When we implemented this by having a reward. So the grade that raised most powder milk would get, I think it was 400 cash. And we managed to raise 250 cans in the first week, and it started to increase by the time we finished. So this were the president and vice president of the club last year.
So this is a fashion show. During the Christmas time, we were thinking about something creative and a way that we could fundraise for the toy drive, and we decided to kind of combine both ideas. And we had the idea of doing a fashion show here in school for the kids. So the fashion show took place in the auditorium, where you guys have seen the keynote presentations. And we had like a catwalk, and we got it like ready with balloons. And the kids would come here to the school, and some very big brands and stores, they lent us clothes for the fashion show. For example, Reserva and Busy. And the kids, at first they came here, they were very shy. It was very interesting to see like how after going on the catwalk a couple of times, they got like so excited and they started like acting like little divas, and they were so cute. And we got like a lot of toys, because people would come to see the fashion show, and the tickets would be to bring a toy. And so we got like the fundraise for toys in this.
And it also was very interesting because at first we didn't plan on having the store donating the clothes to the children, because it was very hard already for them to lend us the clothes. So by the end, so you have an idea how like this touch impacts other people, the managers of the stores, they decided to donate all the clothes to the models the children use during the fashion show, because they saw how like attached they become, how happy they were wearing something new, something pretty, and they were like their self-esteem was just so much better after a fashion show, that they were given the opportunity like to do something, to be included in the plan. So
this is us like in the backstage, the beginning, and they were like all very shy. They didn't want to smile or take pictures with us. We were all very excited, and they were too. So, and this is the final picture, like the final pose. Like everyone was in there taking pictures with us.
So this, the next project is the calendar project. It's our new baby, like our precious little thing. And so under process, the Saúde Criança is making the 25th anniversary next year, and decided to ask us for a collaboration with a new project, something new, something innovative, and something that would really call the attention to people. And we wanted to fundraise in a way that people would always have like the reminder, constant reminder, and that's why we decided to produce a calendar. And we're going to the hospital, taking the pictures of the children. And each month there will be a different theme, and we're responsible. We're responsible to get the sponsors, to get the place, print the calendars, and to produce the photographs. And it's very interesting because one of our volunteers has a cousin that is an artist and was having an exhibition, and he heard about the project we were doing, and he decided he wanted to help. And he went there, he took a lot of pictures, and he had an exhibition the next week, and he sold 3 pictures and managed to raise 2,100 cash with those pictures. So it's already like a lot of help. As you see, it starts like spreading around. It's just very emotional. People get very attached to it since the first time.
And this is one of the pictures that he took. It's actually the cover of the calendar that's coming.
And the calendar itself is a themed calendar, so for every month we kind of include, for example, in December we have Christmas, and then in one other month we might include Valentine's Day, so it's a themed calendar so we can make it more interactive.
So there's different types of there's different ways that this project impacts, and the most direct impact is on the patient themselves, and not only because of the direct treatment that you're getting for their disease, but also because of the way that they have their homes get improved. They live in very, very poor conditions, and Saúde Criança wants to help them to get better and get cured from whatever they have. And that's very hard when you live with no sanitation or no food or no conditions of getting healthier. So they help in the homes. And also the kids, as I said before, they stay a very long periods of time hospitalized and re-hospitalized. And they're very little, or they're like our age, and they get bored. So sometimes they need different ways of entertainment besides us going there and visiting them. So the way that they find to entertain the patients is they fundraise for different tablets and computers and cell phones, and they fundraise through social media. They're able to fundraise enough money to buy those things and to take to the patients. And another thing,
so it's important to remember that many of those kids have like contagious diseases or very critical conditions or getting ready to a surgery, and they can't have contact with other children, have to be isolated. So in these cases, they can't go to the playroom, we can't have interactions with them. So having like toys and having something to pass time is very important for them, because many times the children get so bored or get so frustrated they're not home when they have to endure the treatments that they refuse the treatment and start. Well, that's how we return to the rehospitalization, the vicious cycle we mentioned first.
So this is Chloe, the little boy from the video that was imitating me, and this is a specific story of how they helped actually the house. This is a single mother. She has 5 kids, and they used to all sleep in one twin-size mattress, like on the floor, and that's very small for 6 people. And they were posting through social media. I think it was on Facebook. They posted that the family, they didn't have beds for everyone, and they were able to fundraise for 3 bunk beds, and they all sleep in beds now. Like that's a way to see how they get and how the impact. They took pictures like saying thank you for your project, and to the people who fundraised and donated money to their beds.
So impact on volunteers. So I think it's one of the most important parts is to emphasize how much this impacts us. It's very easy to say that you should follow your passion. I think that I always knew that I really loved community service, but only recently with Saúde I really discovered what about community service I liked. And I think that's an important part of like GIN is discovering your passions. So there's this kid, Miguel, and he's the one that I've known the longest in the hospital. Unfortunately, he has been there for very long treatments. And he is only 1 year and 11 months old. And he has leukemia, so it's a very serious condition, serious treatments as well. But despite everything, I think he's the most happy child I've seen in my I don't know, he always wants to play, he always wants to hug me. It's very emotional to be around him, especially because he has been in very rough times, especially recently. And one day I remember I was playing with him, and he gave me a car and told me that I could take the car home so I could play when I was alone. So it just, you get very emotional, you get very attached to them. And it's a process where you're trying to help another person and you're discovering yourself as well. This helped me discover what I want to study when I go to college, what I want to do with my life. So it's a very important process for me. I know that if you try to develop this initiative in your community as well, I know it will be a very important thing.
So we have a little video of Miguel playing iPhone with Miguel. Yes.
He has a passion for cars.
It was study filming, so it's not the best.
I was entertained playing with him, but that was him. It's got way to be perfect.
We'll get back to it.
Oops. We did this for like 1 hour.
Just more pictures of how we interact. This is actually the playroom. We have a room with a lot of toys and a lot of video games and movies. And we take the children they're capable of going there, that don't have any disease or that are not waiting for any surgeries or something. And we take them there, we play with them. They have the chance to view the video games and toys they want. And this is like basically the place we stay the most during our hospital visits.
This is Ana Gabriela, which is also 1 year old.
So yeah, the toy room again. There's like the video games and like the Wii and Xbox, and
A lot of coloring
and like yeah, a lot of. There's cases where like patients can't leave the room, but we can interact with them. So we go there, we play with them in the rooms.
You can take toys.
Okay, now what about the impact on society? We have a little video for you guys. It's on a specific example of how Saúde Criança changed the life of a whole neighborhood.
A Associação Saúde Criança entrou na minha vida foi em 2011. O Ricardo, meu filho de 11 anos, ele é portador da anemia falciforme, do tipo grave. E ali ele estava internado no Hospital Federal da Lagoa, em coma. E ali foi onde meu chão saiu, porque meu esposo estava desempregado naquele momento. Eu estava numa gravidez de risco da minha filha Isabelle, que hoje tem 4 anos. Quando ele saiu do coma, ele pôde voltar para casa, mas já com todos os aparelhos para fazer uma fisioterapia em casa. Saúde Criança fez a reforma, aumentou a minha casa de tamanho, ela pintou, colocou o que não tinha antes, como o saneamento, não existia, a gente tomava banho de balde. As pessoas até assim... ficou surpresa, falando, o que está acontecendo com a vida da Cristiane? A casa dela ficou bonita da hora para outra. E começaram a ter desejo também de melhorar a casa. Aí foi onde todo mundo começou a pintar suas casas, a entrar em obra. E aí começou a valorização do nosso bairro, da nossa rua. Eu sou muito feliz. Eu sou reconhecida na rua como a mãe com os 3 filhos, porque... eu passo, vou pedalando e todo mundo cumprimentando e achando incrível, aquelas crianças todas agarradinhas um no outro, e eu fico me sentindo uma mãezona, aquela leoa. Eu sempre tive o dom e o desejo de aperfeiçoar esse dom de fazer artesanato. Foi aí que Saúde Criança me proporcionou essa capacidade, essa possibilidade de colocar em prática. Ai, como é bom! Como é bom assim ser mãe, como é bom poder ver eles bem, Porque os filhos estando bem, a gente bem, né? Eu fui abraçada pelo Saúde Criança. Abrace sua mãe e você também.
This was one of the campaigns they did for the Saúde Criança for Mother's Day. If you use the hashtag Abrace Sua Mãe of your mother, then there will be £1 donated to the foundation.
Okay, so from that we can see how Saúde Criança, from impacting one family, it can change like a whole neighborhood, it can change a whole society. So we can see that Cristiane was facing a very challenging life. You know, her soulmate did not have a job. You know, her house wasn't enough for her kids. But then Saúde Criança jumped in and they made her follow her dreams, and they also improved her house, they painted her house, they expanded her house. And what that did was it changed the whole neighborhood. Everyone painted their own houses in the neighborhood. So we can see how one thing that Saúde Criança does can have sort of a ripple effect, an effect of a whole multitude of people, right? So according to Global Geneva, Saúde Criança is the 21st most influential NGO in the world. So again, we can see just this statistic again testifying to how Saúde Criança can influence one's lives. This is a picture of someone in the playroom. This is the father with his daughter.
Yeah. On the visiting day, the parents that are not staying on the hospital, or the families or friends, they can visit the kids.
Okay, so how, this is the most important part, special projects. How can you implement this? So we were able to develop a lot of projects because we needed to fundraise, and the school wasn't allowing us to do any big sales anymore to get money. So we needed to find creative ways to do it. So that's how most of our events came to be, because we needed to find ways to fundraise money, but also to help and raise awareness to this cause and to this NGO. So we talked a lot about the hospital visits because that's the way we feel that most impacts us and the children. But the other examples we give of projects, there are just a few of others that we do implement every week. And it's just finding a local NGO, a local hospital that needs help. I'm sure there are lots in your community. So it's just trying to find somewhere it starts and then just developing this to other places. And yeah, just follow your passion.
And now we will hold some questions and we will answer your questions, and
have
also,
a small
yeah, if you guys, we have an activity actually before that. If you guys feel like there are some things that Saúde Criança could improve in.
Yeah, so we told you how we do it. We gave you the methodology, how our projects implemented. But we still can do a lot to improve, we know that, so how can we improve?
Is there a similar project at your school, at your community? Like, how can you guys improve? How would you improve this project? How would you change what we do? Would you maybe do the visits at another hospital? Would you maybe implement another certain type of fundraiser at your school? Like, give us some ideas of what we can do. Anyone? Oh yeah, good idea. We're gonna, how many of you guys? How many? 16. We can put 4 groups of 4.
Yeah, so could get into groups and then give us like some suggestions.
Get into 4 groups of 4.
Yeah.
And give us some suggestions of how you would improve this initiative.